Welcome, Alan Greenberg. You are the chair of the ALAC, the At-Large Advisory Committee. Could you tell us a bit more about your community, please?
Sure. The word community is, in fact, the magic word. The overall group in ICANN is the at-large community. We are charged with making sure that when ICANN does work and creates policies or whatever, we take into account the needs of the 3 to 4 billion and growing internet users around the world. Clearly, we are not in a position to talk to them all, and our challenge is to make sure that the needs are satisfied. And this is a very diverse group living in many countries under many economic conditions, many social conditions, many cultures. So we have groups around the world. Currently, we just hit 200 in cities and countries around the world that feed into our process. The At-Large Advisory Committee itself is a 15-person committee with 3 people per each of the 5 ICANN regions that coalesce, that bring together the ideas from the rest of the organization and present them to ICANN in various different forms. The advisory part is, in theory, we can do advice, but that's not how we necessarily do it on a day-to-day basis.
Could you tell me a bit more about what the ALAC does?
Sure. As I said, advice in theory is what we do, but in practice what we do is we participate with the rest of the organization, with the GNSO, the Generic Name Supporting Organization, and the counterpart for country codes. And when they're developing policy, when they're trying to decide how they manage the resource at their responsibility, we participate. We actively are part of the groups. Although these groups have names that are associated with their own unit, they are very open to other people working with them. And we try to make sure that as policy is developed, the users are considered. It's not just the industry people in play. We have to think of the billions of users who are at the ends of the keyboards.
Right. How does the work of the GAC, the Governmental Advisory Committee, and the work of the ALAC relate to each other?
Well, we both interestingly use the term public interest. We both think we represent the public interest, and in fact, we do both represent the public interest, often different views of the public interest. Governments have different concerns than we might. The governments may be very concerned about the uses of their country names, for instance, whereas we're more concerned that when your grandmother uses the computer, that she doesn't get confused. And very often, however, the results of those processes we have internally to address the public interest end up with very similar conclusions. And when they do, we work together with the GAC. We try to make sure that if indeed something the GAC is saying is something we believe in, we say so. And hopefully in the other direction as well. And increasingly, we are working closely with the GAC, with the Governmental Advisory Committee, to make sure to actually come to the conclusions. So we're not only reacting after the fact to what people say, but trying to see where there are common goals, where we can work together to achieve our common ends.
I have one last question. What are your views in terms of improvements in the GAC's engagement and collaboration with your community and other communities within ICANN?
I guess the simple view is delighted. For a long time, the perception was the GAC is aloof and doesn't want to talk to anyone else because governments are, perhaps viewed as, if not more important, apart from the rest of the organization. And increasingly over the last several years, we have worked together. And increasingly, we're seeing the people from the GAC, not representing the GAC, because a single person cannot necessarily represent all the countries, but can participate in activities, and if not give the views of the GAC, give the views of a national government which may have similar views to others. The ALAC and the GAC have just for the first time at this meeting, we have appointed a liaison, a formal person from the ALAC to sit with the GAC and be able to act as a conduit in information back and forth. So even though we meet at the same times, we can make sure that there is a communication path on all counts. And I think that's really important, and I'm absolutely delighted that we're at that stage now.
Well, thank you very much for answering my questions, Alvin.
Thank you, Julia. It's a pleasure.